Hey y'all, it's Leah. I made these really cool steampunk mixed media tags this weekend, and I had posted them on our JJJ group and on my Facebook page, and quite a few people really liked them and were asking how I did them and if I would make a tutorial. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that today. So I used two different styles for the backgrounds. This one is just using these metallic rub-ons. It's kind of like a waxy paste, and so I just embossed it, kind of the same process that I'm going to follow for these, and then just use my finger tool and went over in different spots. And so that gives you kind of a different look. It's got a lot more white space. I could really get into those nooks and crannies if I wanted to, but I kind of liked it with just a little bit of white showing. So that's that one. These two I did with watercolors, with metallic watercolors. And so that is what I'm going to show you today. So this one is obviously more of like kind of an icy kind of feel. And then this is kind of your traditional steampunky, grungy kind of colors. And so I'm going to probably do something again like this one today. That's what I'm planning. So put that over here. So I start with a piece of watercolor paper. I use 140-pound watercolor. It doesn't have to be that heavy. That's just what I happen to have. My husband's an artist, and so that's his preference. And so that's what I had around the house, and so I grabbed that. I cut it to 3 by 5 3/4 because I just like that size of a tag, and then I left it rectangle for now. I'll trim my corners once I do all of my painting. Not for any particular reason, but just because that's what I tended to do. That's what I did the other day. So, so you'll need that. When I run it through my embossing machine, I do go ahead and spritz the paper with a little bit of water. Don't saturate it, but it just helps to kind of loosen up those fibers in there and kind of takes the embossing a little bit better. It makes it, sometimes when you emboss, especially heavier paper, it can crack. And so that kind of helps just loosen it up a little bit. So I like to do that, especially if you are doing the 3D embossing. This one is not a 3D embossing folder, but when I do something like this one where you can really see that texture, you want to have, you definitely want to have those fibers loosened and have it, it gives it a little more give. And so it allows it to emboss much better. Okay, so you need your tag, and then you need some watercolors. So I found this really fun watercolor palette at Michael's. It wasn't very expensive at all, and I had a coupon, and so I think I got it for like 40 or 50% off. So not bad at all. So you want that. You'll want some, I tend to use watercolor water brushes. They're just easier for me than dipping and having a palette and all of that stuff. And then you want to have a paper towel to kind of wipe on and off and do that. So I like to use 2 watercolor brushes. I kind of keep one for my kind of brown colors, brown tones, and then one for like my blues, greens, purples. You don't have to, I mean, you can completely, if you only have one water brush, that's totally fine too. But I have a couple of them, and so I just went ahead and did that. So you just start with picking what color you want, is kind of, you know, color you want to start with. And I just squeeze a little bit of water, squeeze the pen a little bit, and it adds some water. And so just kind of get some on my brush, and then I just start randomly going in here, and I'm kind of, you can see I'm kind of pushing the ink into, or the paint into those nooks and crannies. But I am being very like willy-nilly on how I am doing this. Grab a little more. I'm going to go in a different spot. And so that's how you get kind of that layered look, is by just kind of going all over the place. And the thing with painting, you have to remember, is it's always going to look really not great when you start. Don't get discouraged. That was really hard for me when I first started kind of playing around with painting, because it's not something that I did very often. But you definitely get to the point where you look at it and you're like, this is not going to look good at all. And then all of a sudden it's like you hit this point and it just kind of comes together. And like I said, my husband is an artist. He does a lot of watercolors, and he said the same thing. He'll look at a piece and he's just like, this is just not good at all. It looks like a mess. But then you just keep working at it and it just sort of comes together. So you see, I'm just sort of going all over. This was a little lighter. I'm just going to kind of go over that a little bit more. And I'm going to start bringing in some other colors. I'm going to use kind of that more, kind of a brighter orangey rust color. I like that one. And so just kind of start filling in some of those spots. You don't have to go right next to where you were. You can kind of go random, because you're going to be adding in really as many colors as you want. And again, if you like the look of kind of having some white in the background, you can. I just want this to look, I want it to look like metal. And so I'm really kind of filling in those spots. And hopefully you can see that this does have a really nice metallic sheen to it. I apologize if you were hearing our neighbors are having a patio installed, and it's a stone patio. So we woke up to the sound of stone cutting this morning. Always a fun way to wake up in the morning. That's how I like to start my summers off. But that's fine. I know we've probably done some things too that have been a little loud. So I think I'm gonna add, this is kind of a lighter kind of a lighter orangey, kind of sticking with that orange kind of color. I'm going to bring in some darker colors pretty soon, but I want my base to be pretty on that orangey rusty side. Just kind of, and you can always go back. It's a cool thing about watercolors, you always go back and layer on more color wherever you want it. You can put color over it. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch over. I'm gonna start bringing in a little bit of the green, kind of going with this kind of a jadey green. And I start kind of overlapping, kind of blend the colors a little bit, because you don't want it to look like, oh, here's a splotch of orange and here's a splotch of green. And as it dries, it'll blend. It'll look better. Sometimes it does start to look a little weird, but again, it's gonna look weird until it doesn't. Then all of a sudden it's gonna come together. And I'm actually gonna finish this off with some mica powder, and so that will give it another layer of water at the end, which just kind of helps to blend. This one's definitely not as dark as my other one, which I like. I like to be a little bit different. It's really hard with watercolors to ever replicate what you did. Sometimes the formulation just never gets quite what it was. I don't consider myself an artist, so I don't feel like I can really replicate things. I'm gonna go ahead and bring in just a little bit of this gray black color just to darken it up a little bit. I just want a little of that darker color, and you can see it's starting to kind of blend a bit. And I totally could have left this with real lighter colors, but I wanted just a little bit of the dark in there. So this is, I'm liking the look of that. Just kind of getting in all those nooks and crannies. And again, I will spritz this with some water. There's a little bit of dark on this side. I do kind of try to balance out my colors a little bit, make sure I've got different colors, because I noticed I had all of that black was kind of all to the right side, so I just want to make sure I'm getting it in different spots. All right, I am liking that. So, and that was pretty quick. It goes super fast. I am gonna add, noticing this is a little, this one side, this one little blob, I want to kind of darken that up a little bit, just kind of fill it in. And it was starting to dry a little bit, so I can kind of get in there. There we go. Okay, I think I'm happy with it now. So that is there. So now I'm gonna add just a little bit of mica powder. I forgot to grab that out. So looking. So this is just sort of like glitter, but it reacts to water and sort of spreads out. And so I'm just gonna sprinkle some of that, and it just gives it this really pretty metallic finish, even more so than the watercolors. So you spritz that, and then I'm gonna use some salt water, because so I just have a little container, Dollar Tree container, that I had water, and I poured in some just regular table salt, and then shook that up a little bit so the table salt dissolves. The salt helps, it reacts with the mica, and just kind of makes it clump a little bit more, and so it just looks kind of cool. So I am going to dry this real quick, and you don't need to watch me dry on camera, so I am going to pause and I will be right back. All right, I'm back. It's all dry. I just used my heat gun just to kind of speed up the process. I did kind of blot it with a paper towel, and that just sort of helps kind of get out some of the moisture and helps it blend a little bit. So hopefully you can see like what that mica does. It just gives it this really pretty shimmer on top, in addition to the watercolor pencils or watercolor paint. So I like that. So that gives us a good background to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my corners with my corner punch. Yes, so now I can do this with scissors, but that makes sure that I get the same look on either side. So now we are ready to decorate. I found this adorable printable. It is a Steampunk Butterfly. This is on, it's like free printables with TLC. Paulette Slater is the owner of that page, and she posts these amazing, I'll link to her Facebook page below, or in her coffee site. She does these amazing printables every day, freebies. Plus she sells things. She does a club. She does some really awesome stuff. And so this, when she posted this on Monday after I had made these tags, she was actually the one where she had that owl previously. And so I had used him. And so then when I saw the butterfly, I was like, oh, I know I'm going to use this when I do my video. So I want that to kind of be my focal point. And so I'm going to use that. And then I just have lots of little bits of metal. I have a couple of wooden pieces that I just used embossing powder and a heat gun to cover those, so they're wood on the back, and just got the embossing on top. So I have some stars and some little arrows, some keys, some little hearts, some gears. So I'll just kind of play around with some of those things. I also have, this is from the Stamperia, I forgot what the name of it is, but it's like their steampunk pack of little chipboard pieces. And so I've got some of those things that I will probably go through, and then just a couple of other little steampunky tags and things like that. Oh, I just saw this. Absolutely unique. That is perfect. I think we are gonna go with that. And yeah, I know I'm gonna use that. So we'll see what else kind of pops out. So I'm gonna use 3-in-1. 3-in-1 is very similar to Fabri-Tac. It's the same company. It's both Beacon. But 3-in-1 you can use, I think both of them you can use on anything. So anytime I am doing like something with texture on it, whether it's fabric, if I'm gluing like two things that are different materials, I always use this. I feel like it gets a better seal on it. And even though I'm going paper to paper right now with the paint, with the mica, I know there's kind of some different textures on here. So I'm just offsetting this butterfly a little bit, because I don't want him to be like in the center. And I know I'm gonna have that piece. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do something like that. And so definitely with heavier pieces, like with the chipboard, but even when I go to do the metal, this stuff works great. So we're gonna do that. And now I'm just gonna kind of place some little pieces. Got some gears. Maybe we'll do, kind of like doing like the little cluster thing at the bottom. So I'm just gonna put, sometimes it's easier just to put the glue down on the page and then just hold that there for a little bit. I also pulled out just some, I had like some darker jump rings. And so I pulled some of those because I thought those would be kind of cool. I think I have some bigger, yeah. I think I might do like a little cluster of those somewhere. Maybe like, oh yeah, we'll do that maybe right here. Yes, and I should be capping my glue in between. I knew better than that, because it does bubble out. So I'm going to kind of go there. There, I like working in clusters of 3. Oh, I like that. Okay. And you know what? I think I want to keep this one kind of simple. I'm really liking this look. So I think I'm going to pause there. I may come back to it at some point and decide, but I think I'm just going to do that and then maybe do, now I'm thinking, I think I'm going to cut this tag a little bit shorter. We're going to do that. We're going to chop a little bit off just because I feel like the proportions are not quite what I want them to be. And then I will save that because that's a good little piece to use for a background anytime I'm doing some layers. Oh yeah, I use the rule of thirds, so I kind of have the bottom 2/3 has my decoration, and then my top third is more open. So then I am going to add my hole to the top. So I can add in some ribbon. Oh, I'm liking that. Oh yeah. Okay. So I'm going to do a little double ribbon action here. Grab the scissors. So just kind of put those together. Go through the hole in the back, try to make them come out together. One's going to give me a harder time. Try that again. Of course, because I'm trying to do this on camera, it's going to be a pain. Oh my goodness. Okay. There we go. Get these separated. That one. Oh yeah. Oh, look how pretty those colors go together. Snip that just a little bit. Cool. All right, and we are done. I'm super happy with that. I could go back and add, oh, that's what I'm gonna do. Not done. I'm gonna go ahead and take this wax, and I'm so used to inking on the edges, so I'm just gonna do it. So again, use your finger tool, kind of going with that bronzy, and I'm gonna kind of do my edges just to give it a little border. Might actually need to do a darker. There we go. Let's try this one. No rules in junk journaling, right? That's my favorite. That's my rule, that there are no rules. So you can just kind of try things. You can mix colors. Yeah, I'm liking. Just gives it, it's not super noticeable, but it sort of adds a border to it. Oh yeah. All right, now we are really done. So thank you for joining me. for this. I hope you learned something. I hope you try it. I would love to see what you do and see your own creations. So please post those, tag me in them, or link them below. And happy creating. Bye, y'all.